It's a bizarre thing, really, to watch your neighbor, a woman with a $60,000 luxury SUV, deliberately become an instrument of plastic destruction day after day. But that's exactly what happened here in Silverwood Trails. And it taught me a lesson about fighting back. A lesson that cost her a $12,000 settlement and her reputation. My name is Frank Peterson. I'm 48, an architectural draftsman, and 3 years ago, I thought moving to this quiet, HOA-controlled subdivision near Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was my fresh start. I'd just wrapped up a messy divorce, finally got joint custody of my 2 kids, Liam and Chloe, and all I wanted was peace, a nice, safe corner lot where the lawn was always neat and the mailboxes came in exactly 3 approved shades of beige. What I didn't account for was Lorraine Finch. Lorraine was 50-something, recently widowed, and drove a pristine, pearl-white Lincoln Navigator that was practically an extension of her ego. She'd appointed herself the neighborhood's compliance director, a title that existed only in her own mind and on the laminated clipboard she carried during her morning patrols. She had the ear of the HOA president, a spineless guy named Ted, which in our little ecosystem essentially made her untouchable. My house was on the corner, which meant trash collection day, Tuesday morning, required me to place my bin right at the curb, exactly where the city ordinance dictated, within 3 feet of the asphalt. And that spot happened to be right where Lorraine took her daily power drive, precisely at 6:15 a.m. The first time it happened was a Tuesday in late September. I was brewing coffee, the kids were still upstairs, and then, crack! It sounded like a small explosion. I rushed outside to find my standard-issue $30 plastic trash can completely obliterated, garbage strewn across the driveway like a confetti bomb filled with damp oatmeal and coffee grounds. There was Lorraine, backing up the Navigator, rolling her window down just enough to let that saccharine, fake-concerned voice float out. "Oh, my dear, these narrow streets are simply dreadful. I do hope you weren't too attached to that eyesore." She drove off with a look that wasn't concerned. It was satisfied. I tried to keep my cool, convinced it was an accident, even after it happened 3 more times that same week. But by the following Tuesday, when I was replacing my 5th bin, I knew. It wasn't carelessness. It was a targeted campaign. Mrs. Diaz, my lovely elderly neighbor across the street, whispered the truth to me. "She cuts the corner short, Frank," she told me, her voice shaking slightly. "She has all the room in the world, but she drives right into your container every time. On purpose." I tried reasoning with Lorraine. I caught her during an afternoon patrol, clipboard in hand. "Look, about the bins," I started, but she cut me off with that tight, artificial smile. "Frank, you're new to community standards. Perhaps you should consider placement timing adjustments. We simply cannot have traffic hazards blocking the flow." Placement timing adjustments. Like I was supposed to levitate the can out of the way of her morning ritual of vehicular assault. After a month, 4 replaced trash cans, $100 down the drain, and the stress leaching into my kids' morning routine, I knew I had to stop buying new plastic. I had to stop playing the victim. But what do you do when the system is rigged and the bully drives a 4-ton weapon? That's when the light bulb went on, the way it does when you're troubleshooting a tricky structural issue on a blueprint. Lorraine was playing by the rules of HOA power, so I decided to play by the rules of physics and city code. I spent a weekend deep diving into municipal law. The city code explicitly required the can to be within 3 feet of the curb. Check. More importantly, the HOA's jurisdiction ended at my property line. They couldn't regulate the public right-of-way, and there was nothing in the city ordinance or the HOA bylaws about the material of the trash receptacle. I called up my buddy Gary, who runs a custom concrete business. "Gary," I said, "I need a standard-sized, custom-made trash can. Hollow bottom for drainage, regulation size, identical color to the plastic ones. But I need it to weigh about 60 pounds and have some serious steel rebar reinforcement." Gary just laughed. "Building a fort, Frank?" "No," I replied. "I'm building a life lesson. Total cost. $75 for the materials and Gary's time, a bargain compared to the mounting cost of fines and replacement bins." From the outside, it looked exactly like every other flimsy plastic can in Silverwood Trails. But inside, 60 pounds of rock-solid steel-reinforced concrete sat waiting. Monday morning, I placed my new upgraded receptacle right on the curb in the exact same spot. At 6:15 a.m., the rumble of that pearl-white navigator was right on schedule. I watched from my kitchen window, coffee mug warming my hands, heart pounding a little. Lorraine approached slower this time, clearly suspicious. Maybe sensing something was off about the perfect placement. The collision was magnificent. Instead of that sharp, sickening crunch of plastic shattering, there was a deafening, solid thunk, a sound that resonated with deep, immovable finality, followed immediately by the screech of metal on concrete. The can didn't move an inch. It didn't even wobble. I watched Lorraine slam on the brakes. She sat in that behemoth for a good 30 seconds, completely still, clearly trying to process the laws of Newtonian mechanics. Then she revved the engine and tried to nudge it from a different angle. Crunch, screech, more damage to her beautiful navigator. Zero damage to the smugly intact concrete fortress. The brilliance of it was its complete legality. If she wanted to continue her routine of property destruction, she was now only destroying her own property. Over the next week, the navigator accumulated evidence of Lorraine's escalating psychological state. A bent running board, spiderweb cracks on the front bumper, and a worrying rattle in one headlight housing. The neighborhood was starting to talk, but for once Lorraine wasn't controlling the narrative. But a bully, when cornered, doesn't back down. They lash out. Lorraine escalated the fight from mere vehicular demolition to targeted harassment. I started getting violation notices daily. Grass height too tall, 2.75 inches instead of the approved 2.5, a criminal quarter-inch violation. Unauthorized window screen tears. Even the beige of my mailbox had faded to an unacceptable, weathered navy. Each notice came with a $50 fine. This was selective enforcement, pure and simple. I spent a Saturday documenting identical violations on 15 other properties, including the HOA presidents, but only my name was on the fine print. The real twist came when Patricia, a newer, sensible board member, pulled me aside at a community meeting. She was whispering, looking over her shoulder. "Frank, you have to know this. Lorraine is pushing hard for all the maintenance contracts to go through some new company I've never heard of. She's obsessed with the budget. That hint was the short circuit I needed to trace. If Lorraine was so fixated on control and specific contractors, maybe this wasn't about power, maybe it was about profit." I spent the next 2 nights deep in public records, following the thread Patricia had given me. And that's where I hit the jackpot. I found a business registration, Midwest Property Solutions, LLC, formed 6 months prior. Listed as 40% owner, Lorraine Finch. The timeline was sickeningly precise. Company formed, first HOA contract bid, and then my trash can suddenly became a traffic hazard. I discovered that Midwest Property Solutions had been awarded 7 no-bid maintenance contracts by the HOA, totaling over $23,000, every single one approved by a board vote in which Lorraine herself cast the deciding yes vote. The conflict of interest was so blatant, it was criminal. She hadn't just been bullying the neighborhood. She'd been systematically embezzling from 120 homeowners by funneling community dues into her own company's bank account. My silly concrete trash can hadn't just been blocking her escalade. It had been protecting evidence of systematic fraud. The war room was my garage. Folding tables. Red string connecting all the pieces of evidence, contracts, her violation notices, the escalade damage photos, the social media tirades. My coalition was small but fierce. Mrs. Diaz, Jim the maintenance guy, who hated her too, Patricia, and Gary the concrete guy. Meanwhile, Lorraine was unraveling. She spray-painted "Move" on my concrete can, which pressure washed off immediately, and tried to get my utilities shut off. Then my son, Liam, found it. A small black box with a blinking light, magnetically attached to the undercarriage of my work truck. A professional-grade GPS tracker. That was it. That was the moment this stopped being a neighbor dispute and became a criminal investigation. I filed a police report for stalking and illegal surveillance. My ring camera footage, all 57 collisions, was forwarded to her insurance company. The State Farm investigator called me back immediately. "Mr. Peterson," he said, his voice flat, "this is not road hazard damage. This is intentional property destruction. We are denying her claim and forwarding this to our fraud unit." The grand finale was the board meeting. I had gathered 100 signatures and secured media interest. Channel 13's investigative unit was setting up their camera outside. The community center was packed, standing room only, the air thick with anticipation. I'd even wheeled the battered concrete can in as Exhibit A. Lorraine arrived in funeral black, flanked by her nervous lawyer. I stood up, presentation boards in hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice steady, "this isn't about trash cans and it isn't about grass height. It's about accountability, transparency, and stopping corruption before it bankrupts our community." I walked them through the timeline, the 57 collisions, the illegal GPS tracker, the denied insurance claim. Then I projected the contract analysis, the $47,000 funneled from their pockets into Lorraine's company. Jaws dropped across the room. The video compilation played next. 12 minutes of Lorraine's Escalade repeatedly ramming the immovable object, set to the satisfying thunk and screech. Then came the moment I'd rehearsed. I turned to face her, the cameras rolling. "Mrs. Finch," I said, quiet but firm, "you've spent thousands on lawyers, committed felony insurance fraud, and stalked my family. All over a $30 trash can you wanted to destroy. But the real crime is the $47,000 you stole from these neighbors right here." The room erupted. People were shouting, clapping, demanding answers. And then Lorraine snapped. She shot out of her chair, mascara running down her face. "This is harassment!" she shrieked, her voice reaching an almost hysterical pitch. "People like him come into decent neighborhoods and think the rules don't apply. I protected property values. I kept standards high." Her words, laced with toxic elitism and veiled bigotry, were all caught on camera. Before the chaos could fully spiral, the door opened. Officer Hernandez walked in with an official folder. "Sorry to interrupt," he announced to the sudden silence, "but I have a warrant to serve regarding insurance fraud and stalking charges. Checkmate." Within 48 hours, Lorraine resigned, her insurance license was revoked, and her company's certification was suspended. The HOA audit recovered the full $47,000 in overcharges, and by Christmas, every single homeowner in Silverwood Trails received a $370 refund check, the best holiday gift the neighborhood had ever gotten. Her husband, Richard, called me one last time, his voice hollow with defeat. "The settlement check is in the mail, Frank. 12/5 as agreed. She's moving to live with her sister in Arizona." I almost felt sorry for him, truly. But then I remembered the months of stress, the GPS tracker, and the fear in my kids' eyes. Some lessons come expensive, and this one cost them everything. The governance changed overnight. We got real transparency, real financial oversight, and my concrete trash can, a slightly scuffed, humble monument to civil disobedience, now sits proudly in the community center lobby, a permanent display with a plaque that reads, "Property Rights Protected, 2024. It became a symbol of what happens when you refuse to be intimidated. My life is quiet now, and my business is booming thanks to the referrals from neighbors who saw my methodical approach to problem solving. But the best part? My daughter, Chloe, wrote her college essay about fighting corruption with concrete evidence, and my son, Liam, started a YouTube channel called Suburban Justice. So tell me, what's the worst HOA or neighbor nightmare you've ever dealt with? Have you ever had to fight back when the system was rigged? Drop a comment below. Let's hear your story. Because sometimes David does beat Goliath. But only when David comes prepared, with allies, ironclad evidence, and about 60 pounds of reinforced concrete. Like the video, and subscribe for more tales where the little guy wins, because justice tastes sweetest when it's served cold, hard, and in front of a news camera.
Welcome to HOA Stories, where inspiration transforms into life strength. These are not just stories. They are your daily dose of spiritual medicine. HOA. Stories Bowl. We curate their resonant journeys, profound lessons, and extraordinary victories from around the world. Each video is meticulously designed to uplift your spirit, ignite your passion, and provide the most practical insights for your breakthrough development. Whether you are overcoming adversity, pursuing a big dream, or simply need a kind act to restore your faith in life, we are here to affirm. Every challenge contains a lesson, and every limit can be broken. Don't just watch. Take action. Join us in exploring and enriching your life today. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to receive a daily source of inspiration and motivation.